pretty poor show. And my question to you is then, what do you do about it? Because if your contractual terms say 30 days, and you're not being paid within 30 days, then somebody somewhere is breaching their contract. Either you're not delivering, or they're not paying. So what are we actually doing about it? And there is in front of you, to summarise all that I'm saying on the Fair Payment Campaign, a little booklet, and that summarises a year to date in the campaign, which happened in September 2008. We launched the year before. Everything I'm talking about, all the benefits we offer to our members, some of you maybe here, are in that booklet. So please don't nod off, but you don't actually have to write anything down. Credit insurance market is all but collapsed. You have construction or building within your area of operation, and you are unlikely to get credit insurance, and it is starting to cause a big problem out there. So cash flow these days becomes even more important, and that's what the Fair Payment Campaign is all about. I looked through our records, and specialist contractors have been, I always say whinging, because I think it was since 1907 about poor payment. Our first records show that's when paid discussions are taking place between contractors and the architects. And when I joined NSCC, every meeting I went to, contractors were still whinging about fair payment. And in almost 100 years, that hadn't actually got us anywhere. We got the Construction Act, but we were still whinging about fair payment. And what we wanted to do is say, right, you have the power to actually do something about payment. It is within your gift. The reason we're not paid is because we allow it to happen. And I come back to those of you who have 30-day payment terms in your contract and aren't paid within 30 days. What do we collectively, as businesses, do about it? And we had a good time about 2 years ago, because the government were also starting to recognise, and we explained to them, that the money they were paying their Tier 1 or main contractors within 30 days was taking 70 days from that point to get down the supply chain. And they sat there and said, well, that can't be true. We pay within 30 days. And we said, it is true. Main contractors make their money by sitting on your money. And I'm conscious that not all of you here work for main contractors. Some of you work in the domestic sector, and there's different issues there, but we've only got 30 minutes, so I can't cover everything. But main contractors, their margins on construction work are 2%. They're nothing, really. Their margins on your money sitting in their bank account are quite substantial, and that is where they make their money on your money. And I think that, and my members think that, is unacceptable. You do the work, you should be paid for it. But the Office of Government Commerce, which educates the government, sometimes not particularly well, on how to purchase everything, how to procure pencils, computers, construction work, hospitals, set out the OGC Fair Payment Charter. And it had in it everything that we wanted. So we went from a situation where asking for your money was a bit like asking for that. There was always a catch to it. You might get some of your money if you were lucky, you'd lose something else. If you started asking for your own money, they'd say, well, if you're paying, then you won't work for us again. And contractors go, okay, well, I want to keep working for you. And we say, well, if they're not paying you, why do you want to keep working for them? But it was very difficult to ask for your money. And the OGC launched this charter. How many of you work on government-funded work? This is about 40% of our sector. Local authority work, housing repairs, housing improvement, basement work on things like hospitals, any government building. I presume some of you work on government publicly funded projects. 40% of our industry. And if you're working on a government project, you should be asked to sign the charter. Any of you see this? Doesn't surprise me. If you're now working on a project which is funded by public money, your money, my money, because I'm presuming you're all taxpayers in this room, and certainly the businesses. I've just had my corporation tax return, and boy does it suck you between the eyes what we give to the government. You should be saying, can I see the charter please? Because in that, it asks for 30-day payment terms through the whole supply chain. So on a government project, or a publicly funded, so all your local authority work, your main contractor is paid within 30 days. And in local authority work, Lord Mandelson has just committed them all to paying within 10 days. I'll settle for 30. I couldn't turn the payment round within 10 days, process it, pay. 30 days. If you're not being paid within 30 days on that local authority project, on that hospital project, on that MOD project, anything that is publicly funded, you should be demanding to know why. And you can report it to me, even if you're not a member. If you have the evidence, we will take it up with government, so your name doesn't get mentioned, because clearly you have a relationship to maintain with your client. This goes through the supply chain, so that's your subcontractors if you employ them too. But certainly looking at the change should be paid within 30 days. How many have retentions withheld? There's always a little groan, a little murmur. This goes through the audience. Bane of contractors' life. And this is really where this campaign, we started to look at a campaign on retentions, but actually it's much wider than this. Any of you any idea how much, and I can only tell you from my members because that's what we survey, how much money is withheld from them in retention money? Money that should be paid to you because it's for work that's been completed. How much is withheld from the 7,000 contractors we represent at any moment in time? Anyone like to have a guess? 42 million?
Yeah.
Add a naught on the end and a bit more. £650 million is withheld from my 7,000 specialist contractors at any one moment in time. £650 million. Imagine what that would do in your bank account rather than in theirs. And you start to see why the business model for main contractors works, because they're sitting on the interest on that 650 million. It's out of your cash flow. You're then operating on overdraft facilities, things like that, which is why we're in trouble now because the bankers are withdrawing all of those. And we sent our contractors off saying, well, go and get a retention bond. And one of my lovely roofing contractors came back and said, easy to say, Suze, where on earth do I get one of these? So we've set up a retention bond facility, and any one of our members can pick up the phone and get a retention bond for any amount of retention on any one of their projects, however large and however small. And in essence, what that actually means, you pay a premium, a small premium for a retention bond, and the contractor then can draw on that one. It's not an on-demand one. He has to prove that you have carried out defective work and you have not gone back to rectify it in accordance with your contract. And only then can he actually ask for your retention money to be paid over. Whereas at the moment, he's got your money in his pocket, and you actually have to fight for it back, trying to prove that the work you've done was good, and he gets to the end of it, he says, oh, well, somebody else's work was dreadful, so we've used your retention money. Hello? Not my problem. A retention bond prevents all of that. As you can imagine, the main contractors don't actually like them very much because they want your cash, but they don't have an argument against them, because if their argument is protection for defective work, this actually provides it. And from the contractors that have used it so far, the premium they pay for the retention bond is more than covered by the interest that they've generated or the benefits they've had from having the money in their own pocket. However small, however large, you can get a retention bond. And on government projects, retention should be mirrored through the supply chain. And I know that on most projects, government do not withhold the retention from your main contractors. Same as local authorities. So if they don't withhold the retention, then your main contractor cannot withhold the retention from you. Again, armed with this information, and that's what a lot of this is about. One of my contractors went in and said, government project, and they wanted 49-day payment terms at 5% retention. He said, well, it's a government project, can I see the charter, please? And the main contractor said, charter, sorry, provided it, and said, 30-day payments, please, and what's your retention? He did have a retention withheld, it was 3%, but then it reduced the retention to the supply chain, to the subcontractor, to 3% rather than 5%. Purely from that knowledge, he improved his lot, literally, overnight. We carry out a payment survey of our members, which is where we get these figures from, and if any of you are in membership of any of our organisations, then please fill out the payment survey and please fill out the state of trade survey.